what up? It's the Headspace once again, all the time. Like, fucking in your freaking screens. Uviche.
Ta-Kaizer.
Yeah, that was not what exactly.
Yeah.
That was the worst introduction I've ever done.
But
let's go.
From the ancient mother.
Hey guys, it happens though.
Yeah.
But talking about things happening, Ta-Kaizer, we've been talking a lot about rappers, the politics that rappers operate in. And I feel like we've come to a place where the most natural thing to talk about next is something that a lot of people behind the social media doors, behind all the YouTube engagements that we love, behind all the subscriptions, behind the threads, behind the going viral, behind everything that we appreciate, we keep getting a consistent response from people who say, why does it seem that the Headspace is promoting artists who are thriving on a national level?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be focusing our attention on local rappers? Shouldn't we maybe be focusing 70% of our episodes on Gqeberha MCs, then we focus on maybe, I don't know, Garankuwa, Peter Maritzburg, maybe there's a rapper in Moria. My point is, the outcry has been this narrative of Johannesburg seems to be creating a tendency that people are saying we're part of the problem.
Yes,
we're part of a problem of amplifying the national at the expense of the local.
Yes, now before we even move forward,
right.
I also want to throw something. When we do something that is exclusively, or we announce something that is exclusively Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
I know, want to do something Eastern Cape. The first people who respond are not from Eastern Cape. Do people even know that?
Holla at them. They clearly don't.
Because I want to make an example, just because I think last week we made an announcement that we want to do reviews videos, music videos.
Yeah. Please give us the music videos.
Yeah, we want the music videos, and we said it's exclusively Eastern Cape. But people who have been on my inbox are not from the Eastern Cape, and please, can this and those are the first people who
curious.
Yeah, boy, curious. And even going back to when the channel started, we reached out to Eastern Cape MCs. And they've been dilly-dallying into we born Headspace. Yes, I born man. It's the channel I'll be putting you on. Way. So I'm just putting it out there, that one. So
ultimately, what we have learned as the Headspace, because it's an important argument, Ta-Kaizer.
Yeah.
Is that if we were to cater to local MCs for local MCs' sake, we wouldn't get anything done, because a lot of local MCs hang on a kind of an entitlement that because you're in their peer group and you operate within the very same scene that they do, perhaps
you're not that important.
What you do will not have as much impact as maybe something on a bigger scale. So this is what influences Ta-Kaizer and I to not focus on MCs from a particular province, but to create a South African hip-hop narrative. And by creating a South African hip-hop narrative that we will start from the beginning and continuously unfold and grow and develop together, what we want to do is emphasize the fact that all of us in our corners, all of us in our ciphers, our performances, our festivals, our movements are relevant. And if you're doing consistent work out there that is making moves beyond your circle, these are the people we want to acknowledge.
Yes.
Because right now it's about who's working the hardest, who's working the smartest, and who's really helping forge something beyond their own province. Where you might represent your own province, but ultimately the impact you have can only really be meaningful if it goes outside of the borders of your own province. It's no use being Gqeberha or East London or Cape Town's most dopest MC if people in other parts of South Africa haven't yet come into contact with your music. So as the Headspace, we want to serve as a medium to put people on to unknown artists in interesting corners of South Africa who are doing massively significant things, and to help resonate that impact on a scale where they could reach a national plateau. Because as it stands, the most impactful marketing lanes are commercial lanes. So if you're not backed by huge corporate sponsors, you will not be the one who is on people's lips, because you're not on the payola for the radio, and you're not on the bill for the music video, and you're not on any kind of important platform that is backed by big money. So platforms like this exist so that we can break down that hierarchy. We can say purely because we have content, and this content has amassed people who love the criticism, who love the insight, and who love the approach of looking at it historically and nationally. We're talking about everybody. So in talking about everybody, we want to say, ultimately, in everything that we've learned from having a rap career in South Africa, whether you are local, whether you regard yourself as national, or maybe you have the balls, and that applies to females too, balls psychology, whether you have the guts,
too sexy,
you know, never,
yeah,
to see yourself on an international level, because we've gone there. SoundCloud is not South African, Bandcamp is not South African. So the beauty about the age we live in is that you could instantly transcend your neighborhood, right, like in an instant, if your music appealed to a global market. So now, taking that into consideration, Ta-Kaizer and I want to ask you, now when I say you in this time, yes, I'm talking to our subscribers, but I'm talking to you motherfucking rappers in particular.
Yeah.
We want to ask you the question, how can you win South Africa as a rapper? How can you establish yourself on a national level? And what does that mean? How can you have your music acknowledged, consistently played, and supported by people in the whole country? And we want to see if there's a possible formula for that, and we'll be using the models of MCs that have existed to kind of build a resume of the things we've learned from South African hip-hop, to say, can you win over the whole country? If you can, how can you do it? Can you form a set of principles that you can teach people to say, this is how you win over this country, this is how you make a rap that appeals to South Africa, and as a result, you become national. Like this?
These are your Pagla way that you always preach on your album reviews. The A word. The A word.
I'm trying to make an A, guys.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. So yeah, so if we go and talk about the artists that have already won the SA market, you would find that they have the same principle, which is authenticity.
Okay.
In their
let's give this authenticity skeletons, meat, and eventually let's turn it into a living thing. So,
yeah, for starters, that's the authenticity. We're not saying everyone must rap in vernac,
in the indigenous language.
Yeah, indigenous language.
Sure.
So your authenticity, we know everyone is inspired by America, because hip hop comes from America, so Nati were exposed by it. So you are inspired by Kendrick. We're not saying now you sounded like Kendrick, ubene twang yonke lento leyo and be like ingathi urapela abantu California, ube usa South Africa. That's not being authentic.
Yeah.
So you can rap in English, but rapping in English, accent yakho leya bongazi East London, uyazi accent as East London, unoqethe English as East London.
And it's a problematic topic, this issue of accent, voice projection, and style, because some people will say, nah, but we've been influenced by American culture, and it's to a larger extent it's true, especially now, Gen Zs are talking in a way that's really influenced by Americanisms.
Oh,
A lot of people speak and sound like they come from the United States. And the thing is, even though we adopt some Americanisms, there's always a flavor to the South African discourse that is unique. And what Ta-Kaizer is alluding to is the simple fact that the reason why hip-hop for the longest time was resented by a lot of South Africans was that we live in townships, and yet when a rapper was out, yo, I'm from the projects, B. You know, a lot of South Africans maybe drink a particular kind of wine, and yet when was out, yo, we out here sipping Hennessy, you know what I mean, and Patron. So the emphasis is hip hop is a lot about rap, is a lot about
references. Yeah.
If you reference things that people don't relate to, you lose them. So I feel like the first question to every MC in order to win your country over is, who are you rapping for? The immediate South African audience has a flavor. You can't be saying, I caught a cab to Soweto, Kaskweli taxi. You can't be saying, I got a fine damn piece, Kasias Bar, Slambus Teranga, Pakistan.
Yeah.
Language, slang, reference, context, content, it all influences a world, a conversation that you take part in as a rapper. So what we're saying is, you shouldn't all of a sudden, if you were raised in the suburbs, try to be as gassy as you can. You don't have to rap in gassy slang. Reference your environment. Proverb taught us that. MCs like who else? Give me another like
from the suburbs.
Yeah. All these MCs who rapped in English.
Utumi
taught us that. AKA taught us that.
Yeah.
So many MCs who prefer to primarily address their audience in Ngesi, regardless of the fact that some people in South Africa can't speak it or don't understand it well.
Yeah.
Still manage to convey a resilient influence across their audience, because sometimes it isn't even about the language, but it's about how you locate yourself. People are smart enough to realize if you're proud about where you come from, or if you're still one of those people who vicariously lives through the image of America. So, kasitelanga authenticity. What we're talking about is being true to your immediate environment. As an MC, naturally you're pulling in from your world, or you are having a fantasy of the best raps you would spit if you were to perform in Def Jam, or if you were to perform in the global stage. And I think before you have your greater grandiose fantasies about being in the highest plateau of hip-hop dominance, it will really help to address where you come from in a way that you can. And again, it isn't about dialect, it's about reference, it's about style. Ta-Kaizer, anything to add?
I want to play a devil's advocate here.
Play Satan as
because I know Abafana, the Generation Z.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna say.
Right, because Generation Z.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they're gonna say, alright, but we had Unas this year who sounded more American, and you could feel that he conquered the South African market.
Good one.
Yeah, everyone knows Nasty C up in South Africa.
Good one.
And he sounded more
American
than he sounded like. So I know there's
some Americans thought Nasty was American.
Yeah, so I know there's probably some kids out there watching this episode and thinking,
bullshit.
Bullshit. So what do you want to say about that?
I counter that by saying Nasty C was an example of what I would call our need to appeal to the global market. He was a young kid from KwaZulu-Natal who had a miraculous ability to sound so freaking American and global as a result. That
it came natural.
It came his accent, his references. He just sounded like he came from Atlanta or something. And I think it excited a lot of hip hop heads who saw the potential to export a South African artist to the world, because South Africa hasn't yet had a global superstar in the hip-hop context. And I think that a lot of MC's wet dream is to have what I would call a rap version of Trevor Noah. Somebody who would come there and represent South Africa on the biggest scale possible. Now, a lot of what people miss about the Nasty C saga, story and journey is that Nasty C sounding so incredibly global was more of a disadvantage than an advantage, and I'll tell you why. Nasty C sounded global, and it was great to listen to in South Africa because people were trying to push him towards that market.
Yeah.
Inevitably, he reached it. Now that he's reached it, he's a really tiny, minuscule fish in an immensely big pond, river, ocean that we call the United States of America and the global market. And notice, Nasty C's albums, his first mixtape, Price City, his first album,
Bad Hair,
his second album,
Strings and Blinks.
All those titles are titles you could easily put next to another American title. They don't say, I'm from South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, they don't reference the country, the culture in any way. They're like
global,
vague globalist statements at something that's transcendent, right? Now he comes to America. What's the name of his album?
Zulu Man with Some Power.
I call something there. Nasty C realized, Nasty C's team, all those corporates backing Nasty C, he becomes yet another artist in America who sounds like a lot of what the artists in America sound like.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, what sets you apart?
Yeah.
Now, because Nasty C doesn't rap in his indigenous language, because he doesn't reference his indigenous background, because he hardly has any sense of insight into the politics of his indigenous country, because he hardly has any real deep reflections about the everyday experiences of his indigenous people, the only thing that they could do was use his indigenous heritage as a marketing scheme. You're Zulu, right? You know what I mean? Zulu man with some power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see it in the boardroom. That's probably how it was pitched. So this further emphasizes the fact that wherever you go, rappers, are you listening? The question will always be, what sets you apart? And if you're operating in America, you don't want to sound like every other American rapper. You don't want to have subject matter that doesn't distinguish you from any other American rapper. And unfortunately, because of this globalist frenzy that we all pushed Nasty C towards and that he pushed himself towards, it is now difficult for him to redefine himself and rap about South Africa and rap from the perspective of a South African and rap like a South African, because that's not how he started. That's not who he is. He's a kid who's thoroughly imbibed himself in the American fantasy. And if I had some personal advice for Nasty C, I would say it isn't about rapping ngesiZulu. It's about finding ubuZulu in a way that still translates across in a global way. And I think his Sway interview for me was the greatest lesson of them all.
Oh, fuck, that one.
Sway asked him about something very important. Sway said, have you ever experienced racism? And Nasty C said no.
Yeah, he said no.
And a lot of South Africans on Twitter went, what are you talking about? That's one of the most racist countries. And I think we cannot deny the young Ngobo's experience. The one thing we can say is, it's impossible for him never to have experienced racism, but perhaps his understanding of racism is being verbally called a kafir, is being actually pushed and assaulted by a white man. He didn't understand that the subtle political structure that governs his life when he was living in KwaZulu-Natal, the fact that there's certain spaces he can't perform in, there's certain countries that determine how much he gets paid, that was all racism.
Yeah.
Nasty C couldn't locate racism in its most powerful form in the system, because as a young kid, as a Gen Z, growing up in an era where he identifies himself with himself as part of a global citizenry, he forgot that white supremacy still governs the implicit structure of capitalism. And he didn't have the insight to say, hey, sway, I might have never been called a nigger. I might have never been called a gaffer.
Yeah.
But the way that I get to succeed, how I get to succeed, who determines if I succeed in my country, is a reflection of the fact that racism exists in the most powerful way. Not the way where you get pushed by a white man physically, but in the way where you get pushed by a white man psychologically and socio-economically. So I want to say to Nasty, find that insight, because the greatest rappers are rappers who've taken the time to look at their world on all levels. You don't have to be the classic intelligent rapper. Intelligence isn't sounding smart, Ta-Kaizer. Intelligence is having opinions about the reality of life that are very deep and well thought out. And I'm not saying that Nasty C doesn't have a profound sense of illustrating his own life experiences. I'm saying it's a bit minimal. It's a bit thin. He can't speak about anything other than his aspirations for wealth, money, pussy, power. The rock star lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think sending this beyond him, Gengo, if you trap yourself in that subject matter, if you trap yourself in that particular context, you lose your country.
So you lack emotional depth.
So how do you win over your country? You understand you're rapping for them. You understand how to do this in your own way. You understand how to take your experiences and bring them to a level where they address the depth but also the surface. And then, what I think is the last one, you draw from the musical influences of the country.
We must join a context now of the South African sound.
That's
the last one.
That's what I would say is the last element of how you can win over your country, is draw from the musical influences of the country. Now, MCs might beats like, yo, these niggas want us to wear all stars.
Okay, we are no.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But if you can, why not? But what I'm look at a track like Moya.
Yeah.
Look at a track like Nafukwa. Look at a track like Tswada. You know.
Look at a track like I Want It All.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at a track like Jabba. Sekele. Look at a track like Jabba's How You Feel. The list is endless. The rhythm doesn't necessarily have to be kwaito, house, the flavor. There are tones, there are textures. Now, without going into it and being like musically deep, South Africans have a rhythm. So to sing, yeah. South Africans have a certain way of moving, dancing. Umjaivo is in our blood. Even if you're the most stiff-boned South African, there's a flair to us. You see it in the way we play soccer. You see it in the way we move. You see it in the way we talk. This thing is in everybody. Wherever you grew up, if you're South African, it's part of the collective consciousness. And it can come about in different kinds of ways. It doesn't have to be the classic Kyovikyo, Kwaito-esque, let's go back to the township flavor.
Yeah.
Kulichana made South Africans dance to boom
bap. To a boom bap song, Tswada.
Tswada could be put next to a Mob Deep song.
Yeah.
But what made it so fresh was Bitalihuwaka Speedy. He starts it off by being so unapologetically Tswana, unapologetically Pitori, unapologetically Mutswako. And it made everybody stand up. Because what they love from hip-hop, they were now able to identify through a cat who was doing it with a natural flavor.
Yeah.
Remember Double HP's first single? Do you feel alright? Everybody yonder. That was a kind of typical West Coast influenced bouncy track. But he was so smooth with the Tswana, and he's always been consistent in giving us the most interestingly humorous and melodic punchlines and double entendres that people felt the groove.
Yeah.
So you could use an instrumental which feels classically American, but you could flip it and draw from the local influences in your style. So this is not a conversation that is exclusively stuck on the sonic approach. You don't have to create a new sound like KO did with Skanda Republic, or what a lot of these young cats are doing right now with this Xhosa trap.
Yeah, Xhosa trap,
What MT did with his own brand of trap, what Ambitious Records was pushing through people like Java, and now extending through artists like Black Diamond, of now drawing from the kind of Maskandi, Mbatanga influence and matching it with the trap. It's beautiful because it shows how no matter how you do it, it's always a combination of learning from the world but also learning from home. So ultimately, rappers, this is the formula. These are the principles. If you want to win, and when we say how to win the country, how to win South Africa, and I know a lot of MCs will close their eyes and think money, cars, hoes. Winning your country is not about material wealth.
You're seeking fame, fame and fortune.
Winning your country is about being able to get booked consistently because you represent the people. Winning your country is not about being known by everybody, but being known for representing everybody, or at least most people, or at least the struggle that everybody goes through. So this is a very convoluted discussion, but ultimately the simplest way I could put it, Ta-Kaizer, is by saying winning over the country is allowing the spirit of your own upbringing to win itself over the people. And you can't name a single South African MC who hasn't done that. Whether we're talking from the days of POC, whose Cape Flats background was contrasted with this Public Enemy influenced approach, and they did songs like Tada. Whether we're talking about the original prototypical hip-hop song that Sipho Kumete did, whether we're talking about Sinyaka doing African rap, whether we're talking about all these different splashes of rap influence through artists like Ndu, Mandoza, Zola, the one thing we've consistently seen, rap is something South Africans love, but only when it speaks to their experiences. So if you want to truly become an artist whose message resonates beyond the hip-hop heads, and you don't want to trap yourself in the nasty C equation of being in the world but being trapped in the world because you've lost sense of home, this is what you gotta do. This has been VJ.
No, Ta-Kaizer.
Teaching y'all, I wouldn't tell y'all, teaching y'all how to win over the country. It's the Headspace.
Sharp.